Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Stepping Up by me, Kinder, of the Tiger Rates, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Today, we are doing chapter 33. How do you make out? Jekyll called to Tibs as he entered the camp center, carrying the sword he found. Had been, it had been the only other It had been the only other chest in the tents he cleared. It was enchanted with a simple weaver essence he couldn't identify, suspected contained metal. Tried to study the weave to determine if there were more than one essence, but that was still beyond his abilities. Yes, it is. I made out okay, he answered, hinting the fighter the dozen coin killing rats had given him. How about you? There weren't as many ratlings body as Tibbs expected. Maybe they knew better than to take on runners in such an open space after this time. Stibb knew, but Tibbs hadn't worked out how much of what he knew about the runners he let the creatures know. Close to 3 gold's worth of silver, Jekyll said. In silver. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can keep it like that. The other one needs to be in the um, bundling room, so. Jekyll said, smiling. That was 3 sets of 1 and 5. No, actually. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to reduce this. To the crumbs worth. There was 3 sets of 1 and 5. 3 sets of 1 became 3. 3 sets of 5 became fingers 1 and 5. So that was one. That one was put with the others, and that became 4. 4 and 5 silver. So yeah, there have been more rattling than Tibbs saw. Carrying everything back, Tibbs asked, noticing how Umbar leaned on his staff. You need me to heal you? I am now, she called, stepping out from among the tents, carrying a staff over her shoulder with pieces of armor tied to it. I am well enough, Umbar responded. Good all, Jekyll's smile broadened. You're carrying this then, she said. Why can't everyone just wear robes? That isn't as heavy. Armor's better, Jekyll said, and everyone looks good in armor. You and me are about the only one who can really make the robe work for us. The robes work for us. Should Oh, I did. Okay. She dropped the staff and armor at the fighter's feet. Not that I've seen you wear one. Cumdark cleared his throat, but Jekyll ignored him, except for his smile getting yet brighter. And overshadow you in yours? I'd never think of doing that. She rolled her eyes. You're so full of shit, Jekyll. The armor pieces were mostly metal, pallets, boots, and briefs. The chest piece was leather, and it and the boots had a sense of metal. Simple, but tighter weave than the sword. Staff was identical to Kumdar, except for the essence woven through it. Fire. Tibbs did it again, putting his hand over his bracers. Still remained silent. Considering as suggested that Tibbs not mention them, it's expected some progress. I also found these, he offered his arm to Jack. Bracers? The fighter took a forearm in his hand and looked them over. Why did you put them on? Yours were in better condition, right? Yes! Stoic exclaimed. I told you this would work. What work? Jekyll asked, for realizing Jekyll hadn't mentioned the reserve. Should have felt them once he touched the bracers. Now he understood what it was, still might have been suggesting to keep to himself. Of course, this question now had his friends looking at him for explanation. Still needed training in how to keep things from being accidentally revealed. I can't feel the reserve? He asked the fighter. Still put amulets in them. Jekyll frowned in concentration. They're attuned to you, Still said, as if he felt something about Tibbs. If he felt something about Tibbs telling his friends, it didn't carry this time. What does attune mean? Tibs looked at Karina as she took his other arm in hand to study it. It means only you can use them, still said. A tune is what an item made is. Whoa, okay. A tune is what an item made to only. Yeah, that's way too fun. A tune is what we call an item made to only work for one person. The only way I've read of it being possible is if the person is included as part of the making, so their life force gets woven into the item. Well, I didn't get that part of the explanation. I didn't get the part that explained how that was possible. I didn't read anything about the dungeon doing it. What can I say? Still replied proudly, I'm just that good. Okay, she said, attempting to process what she said. But why can't Jackal and Karina sense the reserve? Even if only I can use them, they're still there. Only you can see through the enchantment on them, still said. The attunement means that for anyone else, even when they touch it, it still affects them. And to do it, you have to know the thing that makes me. I thought you couldn't sense us. Well, he paused as Jackal opened his mouth, grinning, but a glare from Kirino silenced him. Because of our life force. That's why you said you can't just absorb what we're wearing, or that. That's why you can't just absorb what we're wearing or see it. That's not quite right, still said. This might take a bit of explaining. It might be best if I did that after you're done. Yeah. That's not quite right, still said. This might take a bit to explain. Might be best if I did it after you've done the run. I can't ask you questions when I'm outside with all the runners around, Finch replied. The explanation won't be quick. I'd been told the others. The explanation won't be quick. Now's a good time to rest up. He sat while Jackal grabbed the armors and staff before stepping away. Okay, still said. I can see. That should be obvious, otherwise I wouldn't be able to know who's entering. And remember, I can sense everyone's essence. You're right, I can't affect you or what you carry from what I've put together, would help. What's preventing me from doing that is that life force thing. But I can see what you're holding. It's just not as clear with the others as it is with you, since we're able to talk. But even if I can't affect you through it, I do see your life force. Cried Philip's voice. Calm down, he said. You're not that special. Every dungeon does that. You heard. You hear. You heard. You heard, Karina. She's never read of another dungeon doing what I did. That's because there aren't in. She stopped. The anger had been mounting in her tone. Just because she didn't read about it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Even she says there are way more books than she'll ever get to read. You didn't know I could do it. I'm not, she laughed, still said, as the silence stretched. Are you okay? She's just being difficult. Anyway, what I did is more clever than just putting how your life force is into the bracer as I made them. Kenny's annoyed because I figured out how to do something she said was impossible. I made the item so that whoever touches it first is who it gets attuned to. Well, if I hadn't listened to you and Karina, I'd picked them up. Well, still as they were. With Kenny watching me, I couldn't just move them to it. I couldn't have just moved them to a chest you'd get to. Don't you think she might be angry at you for something like that and figure out how to make these? Oh no, that's not what's got her buzzing about. She'll get over it. What did that scene of Jackal and Joseph? Getting over a problem wasn't something that happened. Anytime Jackal didn't realize he'd hurt this man, it escalated until he was made to realize it. And then the apologies started. He didn't get the sense that Kenny and Stowe were that kind of special, but he hoped the dungeon realized he was hurting her with whatever this was. Okay, how did you figure out how to do the attunement? You said you need an example before you can try things like bring you can. You said you need an example before you can try things with it. This seems far outside what you get from the runners. Oh, a noble had a sword that was attuned to her, he said dismissively. It was interesting studying it once I absorbed it. There's one of them that ended up being good for something. That's about it, unless you want me to go into the how. Go into how I made the weave. It might be best for you and your team to move on to the next room. Tibs stood, and the others took that as the sign the rest was done. The rest time was done. The pieces of armor were tied to Jackal's back while the staff was on Miz's. He should have been able to sense something, Emma said, walking next to him. Bardic said that something like the pouch still gave me back then, which this is like, needs a specific mindset to go along with the essence to be able to see through the enchantment. He smiled at her. You're not suspicious enough for it, I guess. He offered an arm to the cleric. Do you want to try? Darkness is key to the weave. To Tib's surprise, Kumdar shook his head. So no one can even know it's enchanted? Tibs asked, and Mez asked, and Tibs nodded. Bardic had said he was the only one in the town who could see through it, and strongly implied few could do it. Could do it outside of it, even. Bardic had said he was the only one in town who could see through it. It also implied you world could. Am I the only one who feels this is far too powerful to be found on this floor? Jekyll snorted. The dungeon made it for Tibs. He's soft on him. Has been from the start. I'm not. He still protested. Jekyll. He made them because I saved his life. Each one can store 4 essences. During their wisdom and their constitution. How much essence can you put in each? That stumped Tibs. He sensed what was in the water reserve, the bracelet, and the amulet and shrub. 3 times as much as in the amulet? I don't know how to go about measuring it. She whistled again, turning a bracer over and running a finger along the side. I can even feel a bump where they'd be. We're going to have to do tests to see how large the reserves are. I hope I can get a book for that. I'm not reading them. I hope I can get the right books for that. I'm not reading them, Tibs stated. She smiled. They're for me. I have ideas on how we can go about doing it, but I want to find out what the official methods are first. She let go of his arm. The thing is, if there are 8 reserves, the dungeon knows about what they're doing. Tibs nodded. It says the corruption. That I can leave. And today says the corruption in I said core essences. He worked out which they were. He's smart that way. What did you do with the other bracers? I left them behind for the dungeon to take. Jackal opened his mouth in a clear protest and closed it. Okay, that might be for the best. The guild might get suspicious if the dungeon handed out worn armor. We could say it was one of ours. For grinning, Jackal considered. Then we'd have to explain who's wearing the one the dungeon gave, and I don't want us to get into that. No matter what Tibs in the dungeon think about the magic on them, the guild has powerful sorcerers, and they're plenty suspicious. They stopped at the opening of the bunnyling room and Jackal rubbed his hands. But now, you have all that essence to use to help us kill the bunnies. Bunnyling, Tibs directed. And I don't know how to use all this essence. And I don't know how to use all this essence I now have. The father looked at him, surprised. I didn't have anything to practice with before. Remember? Flung a few air blades and tried to harden it. I can use earth to make myself tougher, my armor stronger, and me too. Without someone to guide me, I don't know how to train with fire, and I don't even know if I want to train with corruption. Jekyll and Maz stepped away from Tibs, looking worried. He rolled his eyes, although he understood their reaction. With only Dawn as an example of what could be done with corruption, Tibs wouldn't want to be around any of his own practices. He looked into the empty room. Does it feel weird to anyone else that there are no tents here? It is some sort of bunnyling village. Should be something. The crowd can focus on the essence moving onto the floor, then shifted his focus to the stone and tried to work out the layout of the burrow. Wall. That's what I've been. His range only let him cover half the large room, and the tiles the bunnylings could jump out were sufficiently well hidden you couldn't tell them apart. He frowned as he thought about what he'd done, about his range. His range was growing slowly, but that wasn't what bothered him. He'd affected the entire pool when he'd frozen the water, and the wound had been larger than this, so why couldn't he do the same thing here? Simple. He'd sent out his water essence, and it had affected more and more until all the water had been turned to ice. Here, he was relying on what he could sense of the essence already in the floor because he didn't have enough essence to... He used not to have enough essence. He rubbed the bracer and smiled. Placed his hand on the ground and pushed his essence through it and watched as the Warren complex lit up to his senses. He whistled in amazement as more became visible. How far could he see this way? The third floor? What is it? Trina asked, sounding worried. Right. This room now, the rest of the dungeon one day. I can see the Warren. It's more than just tunnels from the trap door to the other. From one trap door to the other, like in the first floor. There are rooms, small and large, gathering places. The way they're positioned reminds me of other rattling camps laid out. Either the dungeon made changes since the last time, or we missed most of this when we searched the tunnel. Lots of loot? Jekyll asked. I can't sense that, just the shape of the tunnel. And why aren't you doing that? You have Earth. This should be easier for you than it is for me. What's the point? They're going to jump out of there to attack us. You might have known about all the tunnels, Tibs said and added, because that wouldn't be enough to make Jekyll consider it. There could have been more loot in them. And, Endar said, you must keep in mind that the dungeon makes changes to more than the layout of the rooms. He also changes how the creatures behave. We may be required to hunt bunnylings into the Warren if we want all the coins it is possible to obtain. But it can only do that while we're outside the room, Miss said, talking and giving it ideas. The archer stepped to the room. I would rather kill them and continue. Tibs smiled and followed Nance. Time to put his new extensive water reserve to the test. And maybe he'd get ideas for things to try with his others. After all, he couldn't burn down the dungeon if he had a mishap with fire. And this concludes chapter 33 of Stepping Up. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next one is going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read ahead, you can do that on my Patreon. If you want to read it for free, it is on Royal Road. And if you want to watch me fumble my way through these live, you can do that on Twitch and also watch me write Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And with that, no, wait, the links are in the notes now. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.